What up? Welcome back. It is Bones. And in this one, let's go ahead and take a look at some rumored upcoming releases from McFarlane's DC Multiverse and other adjacent lines. Now, we have come to understand that these lists are usually about 98% reliable. They eventually do come to fruition. I do remember when the Lobo and Space Hog was on there for a couple of years and eventually it was released. You also had a time when the Batman Forever wave was rumored for a while and people thought that's never going to happen. And now we are all able to add those to our collection. So although these lists are not 100% accurate, they do tend to be pretty reliable. I'm going to go through these in sections. I want to try and get through them as quickly as I can because there is a lot to take a look at. Now, there are some things that I'm not a big collector of, so I'll, just mention them, starting with the animated series stuff from DC Direct, also under McFarlane's banner. And although people have been having a lot of fun collecting these, we've seen the Joker mobile, we've seen a bunch of figures, maybe some eventually I may pick up down the line. For sure to say that people who collect this line have a lot of cool stuff. So if you're into that DC animated line, the 6-inch line, then be prepared for more figures to come out, even vehicles. So for those who collect that, that is pretty awesome. Now, another portion of the McFarlane releases that I'm not a big fan of is, of course, all the alternate releases, alternate variations of figures. I'm talking about the Nightmare stuff. We have seen various releases of that black and gold style of figure. The most recent one being, I think, the Vampire Batman, who got its own Nightmare treatment, if you would like to add that to your collection. Now, although I do have a couple of these, I usually hold off until I could find them eyes. You also have the Frostbite editions, which I'm not too sure why McFarlane decides on some of the characters. I kind of have a feeling like they should mostly be heroes. That way you can, have it that Mr. Freeze has frozen them into these cool frosted blue statues, and that's why they are released. But McFarlane likes to release even villains in this form. And as I've said, if these aren't for you, they're not for you. These are not made in a huge production run. So, being a minimal run, it's up to you if you want to collect them or add them to your collection. Nobody's forcing them on you, and there is enough made where they are not a burden on the line. They're just made for those who want up. So for those of you that do like these, they're going to have a Nightwing Frostbite version for your collection. Another one on the list is a black and white Blue Beetle. Now, we're not sure which Blue Beetle. I would have to think it's going to be the single release gold label and not the 2-pack version, but who knows? McFarlane does make some pretty kooky decisions. So we'll have to wait and see which Blue Beetle it is, but it will be getting a black and white with accent edition. Now, also on this list, I'm going to talk about these two figures that were already revealed, which is the gold label Green Lantern Hal Jordan and Superman 1000, respectively. And if you didn't see it, I did do my own ultimate version of Hal Jordan where I did touch on that new release of Hal Jordan and the way it differentiates from my custom ultimate Hal Jordan. So pretty cool. I will reserve judgment until I actually get it in hand. That way I can really give my opinion on that Hal Jordan. You also have the Superman 1000 with a cloth cape, which looks pretty nice. I have heard rumors that it does have the yellow S on the back. And this takes us into one of the main big differences, and that is that the Superman emblem on the chest is now just painted on. Although it is a really nice shield, the big problem is that I'm more of a fan of sculpted out emblems. But in the end, I will take either or. Now, this body does retain some of the ugly parts of that Superman 1000, which was the big ball ankle joints, the kind of small legs for the figure, the single jointed elbows, and also the hands are an issue, which is you do not get a right fist, you only get a left fist. So, a lot of problems with this release. I mean, it is going to be good to customize and make a lot of, ultimate Superman. So that's something to look forward to, but not really blown away by these two gold label releases. McFarlane, but we still have to wait and get them. And now there is a difference in the way these were listed because I didn't necessarily see page punchers, but they are listed as that they come with a comic book. Now, these are some pretty strange releases, so don't know all the details. I will go through them and we'll, see what we got. But up first, we do have a Red Hood from The Adventures Continue of Batman. So, as far as I could tell, if you look it up, there is a certain version of Jason Todd as the Red Hood that goes along with this title. But it is going to be a 7-inch release, so that's something to take into account, being that it is going to be different from the 6-inch animated release. But who knows? You also have just a Shazam in there. Don't know which Shazam. Now we have received a couple of releases. We have that classic version, and we also had the movie Shazam. Neither one being my, perfect Shazam. So we'll have to hold off and wait and see what we get with this one. Now that it comes with a comic that can kind of steer you in the direction and look into the most iconic covers of these characters, and maybe that has something to do with the design that they're going to go with for these releases. Now, each one of these are marked that they come also with a chase figure, so that's something else we have to take into consideration. Now, one I thought was really interesting and that I am looking forward to, it is listed as an 85 Norm Brayfogle art styled Batman. Now, this artist is more known for his huge capes. I do remember a lot of these comics, especially the covers, when I was, actively collecting comics. A lot of iconic covers and designs of Batman. So who knows what it'll be? More than likely, it's going to be a blue and yellow version of Batman, but with a pretty nice, wired, articulated cape. I mean, that's all I could think of, but who knows in the end what we'll see. And finally, this one's kind of weird because it does say a 78 Superman, which would mean that they're going after the Reeve version of Superman. Now, the reason this is strange is because although he has appeared in the DC comics, it's kind of a conundrum to think about which comic it's going to be, which design choices they will make. This will be the first Reeve Superman that we receive, or not actually. Now, the reason I say this is because also on the list is a standard DC Multiverse release that does have the title of 78 movie Superman. So this is going to be based on the Christopher Reeve Superman, but we have no idea which ones or what's going on. That is something pretty fun about the line, that we never know what is going to be released. But the bad part is that a lot of times we are let down by some of the choices that McFarlane makes. So, gotta be honest about that. But if you know me, I'm not a big downer. I do see a lot of the silver linings where there isn't much to hope for, but hopefully we'll get a pretty nice 78 Christopher Reeve Superman. Now, this does move us into the live action stuff. Pretty big list here. You do want to start off with the Batman v Superman. Pretty extensive list here of figures that are, probably going to be released more than likely. Starting off with one of my favorite figures. I really wanted this as an action figure from McFarlane, and we are talking about Nightmare Batman from Batman v Superman. Now, this is the version, of course, where he's in that apocalyptic scene fighting the parademons and trying to survive in a pretty horrific landscape. But this is one version of Batman that I really enjoy. This is one that a lot of companies go after to make, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what McFarlane has in store for us. Now, you will also be getting versions of Cavill's Superman and Wonder Woman here. Not too sure, once again, which figures they'll be or if they'll just be the original releases with a different color scheme. Of course, we know in Batman v Superman, Wonder Woman had a darker, more dreary color scheme. But we do have alternate takes. Is it going to be the original hot dog leg release of Wonder Woman? Or is it going to be more of the Shazam Gal Gadot version of Wonder Woman? Be ready to get surprised because we won't know for sure what it'll be until it is released. But it is another chance to add these characters to your live action collections. Now we will also be getting one of my favorites, which is the armored Affleck version of Batman from Batman v Superman. Pretty cool to get this one in the line. Once again, don't know the exact details, but we will get an armored Batman from Batman v Superman. Now, this also leads us into there's going to be a couple of 2-packs. One of them is going to be Superman and Armored Batman, while the other one is going to be Doomsday with Superman. So this kind of opens up the variations we're going to get of Superman. Who knows what the final product will be, or how big the Doomsday will be, or what style he'll be done in. Hopefully, it'll be more of a movie style Doomsday. But for people who really love that film, this is something awesome. McFarlane's still diving deep into these, and I would have to say mostly because these do have a big fan base. Now, one more thing that will be released, not a Batman v Superman figure, but it is from the Snyderverse, and it's going to be a Darkseid with Throne. Now, we have seen images of this in the film. There will be speculation as to exactly what it'll look like. I'm leaning towards it might be the armored version, but it could end up being just the standard version of Darkseid that didn't have the armor on, which will be cool. If you do have that original armored version, you can still use him on your own. But as always, in the end, we won't know the full details until we see images released. Now, the next thing I want to get into is some vehicles. Keeping it in the live action, we will be getting a Batman and Robin Batmobile. Now, the cool thing is McFarlane recently released the Batman Forever Batmobile. That one came with an Alfred figure. Now, this one doesn't seem to come with a figure, but what it does have advertised or listed as is that it is going to come with lights and sounds. Now, this is one of the more obscure or, just out there designs of the Batmobile. It had some pretty long wings in the back, and the front had some pretty crazy details going on inside with lights and stuff. So, it's going to be pretty interesting to see how the final product is from McFarlane, but it'll be another Batmobile you will be able to add to your collection. Now, one vehicle I'm really looking forward to, and this one has been rumored for years. We're finally going to get it. Hopefully, fingers crossed it does come through, and that is going to be the Batmobile Skyrider from Batman Beyond. Now, I recently did an Ultimate Batman Beyond figure, and I did, dip into it a little bit that we never received that Batmobile. Now, we will be getting the Batmobile, and the cool thing is it is listed to have a figure with it. Now, not sure which figure it's going to be. Hopefully, it's a more classic McGinnis looking Batman Beyond. Maybe it could have effects like red effects, like when he's riding inside the Batmobile. Maybe it's going to be a Bruce Wayne. Who knows? But I, for one, am definitely gonna be ordering this Batman Beyond vehicle. Long time coming. We've been waiting a long time, and it's gonna be very satisfying. I think it's gonna be out hopefully around Christmas, which is gonna be pretty sweet. So definitely looking forward to that. Now, finally, everybody's favorite. This subline has really gone far for McFarlane, really turning out to be one of his better sellers, although it is a thorn in the side of a lot of collectors. And it is going to be the next wave of the collector series from McFarlane. Now, luckily enough, he has been getting better with these collectors' releases, losing the card stands and adding a lot more accessories. But we have a pretty nice solid list here. So let's take a look at them. Coming up first is really one figure that I've wanted for a long time. I was collecting Mattel when they showed this character to be released, and it never got released, which was a really big letdown for me, and that is Simon Boz, the Green Lantern. Now, I don't know what it is. I think it's more the way his costume is designed. I really love the headgear and the boots. Was a plus that he carried a weapon, a sidearm with him, which I always thought was pretty old school for a character that's such a modern character. Now I do own the DC Direct version, one of my favorite DC Direct figures. They did have him with his holster and weapons, so I thought that was pretty cool. But it is going to be interesting to see how McFarlane fully realizes this Simon Boss figure. Now, another character people may not know, but it's going to be very essential to our collections, is going to be the Grid. Now, the Grid is the evil version of Cyborg, more aligned with the Crime Syndicate. Really, I think we've never gotten this character in action figure form, so going to be pretty interesting to see if it's a brand new sculpt or they just use that new Cyborg figure as a base for this one, but hopefully it's going to be something pretty awesome. Now, here's another interesting one. It's going to be Mr. Terrific, another side character that we've seen more in the recent years in the DC universe. I do own the DC Classic action figure of Mr. Terrific. Very awesome figure. He came with those T-balls that he uses. Not too sure. There's a couple of different designs for Mr. Terrific, but fingers crossed McFarlane goes with the classic design. So looking forward to that one as well. And finally, this is kind of a throwaway character, but also very interesting. We're going to have a Lightning Lad. Now, this is part of that huge pack that Mattel made, the Legion of Superheroes pack. Now, I do own this, it's right here behind me, and I do have that Lightning Lad figure. Very traditional style version of Lightning Lad, although in these modern times they have changed his design. Sometimes they show him with like a bionic arm, but his colors and costume usually stay pretty much the same. But this opens up to all the other characters of the Legion that McFarlane could do, like Brainiac 5, a classic version of Superboy. Hopefully, McFarlane gets into the rest of the Legion of Superheroes. Now, most of these figures should come with alternate platinum versions. That's been pretty much the standard for McFarlane with these collector's edition releases, but they don't always get a platinum release, but mostly they do get some sort of alternate version. So we'll have to wait and see on that as well. Now, another thing I wanted to get into that I thought was pretty interesting is that I'm not a big statue guy. Just never been into statues because the way they're posed in one position, you can never move them. Now, while they are beautiful, a lot of them do command a large, very large price. It's just something I'm not into. Everybody's into different things. I'm more into action figures, especially retail action figures. That's why I collect the way I collect. And if you're into statues, well, that's awesome for you. I mean, no problem with that at all. That's great. I just like the feel of being able to pose my figure or take figure photography or even, make memes with the figures. So that's why I like to be able to move them around. But I always did say that if McFarlane made a Venom statue, that I would definitely be picking up. Well, that is come to fruition. He has shown he's going to be making a Venom statue. But right on the end of that, on this list is a Grim Knight statue. Now, going to be pretty interesting to see how it looks in the end. Is it going to have weapons? I mean, it definitely should. Grim Knight being the Batman with guns. I'm a big Grim Knight fan. I think they really dropped the ball with that character. They killed him in the comics. He has had sort of an afterlife even after that. But the way people look at weapons right now in this day and age, I kind of feel like they don't want to push him any more forward. But he is a very popular design for Batman that a lot of people really enjoy. Love that Grim Knight from the DC Multiverse. Still, probably in between my number one and two favorite figure from McFarlane's DC Multiverse, and I will be more than happy. I think it's a 12-inch statue, so not too big. But I will also be picking up that Grim Knight. So these will be pretty much the two first statues I ever pick up, that Venom and this Grim Knight. And finally, to end this with a bang, I am going to talk about another thing on the list that was a really big surprise. It is labeled as the Monsterverse, and it is going to be Batman versus Kong. Now, is it going to be a pretty big size Kong, like a mega fig, with a standard 7-inch Batman? Don't know, but it is on the listing, and it may have something to show what we'll look forward to in the future, because come to find out, there is a subline of comics that are Justice League versus Godzilla and Kong. I never knew anything about this, so it was a big surprise to me. But it will be very interesting to see how this looks in its final form. Definitely going to be picking it up, but we'll still have to wait and see for the exact details and if it'll move on to some Godzilla figures. Very, very interesting from McFarlane. And of course, this brings us to the fact that, well, maybe it won't come out. Maybe this will be part of that 1 to 2% that isn't, finally released. But we can wait and see. And that's another thing I wanted to say, and that was that all these releases are cool and fine. But one thing you must always keep in mind, and that is that McFarlane likes to surprise us and just pop figures out of nowhere, figures that we never heard of, never saw on any list, never even knew that were possible to be released. And McFarlane just, comes out of nowhere with these figures. So if you're looking for other characters, females, villains, don't give up completely. They could still be released. It's just that they were not on any list or any rumored list. A lot of stuff to look forward to. We got a good finish off of this year coming up. And who knows what this will mean for the future of the DC line with McFarlane or whatever happens in the future. We just got to take it as it comes and collect what we enjoy. But you guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.